Julie.
But she's also the last one.
Unless you want to make a section just for this.
We gotta blame her big time. Oh, put a big X.
Recording in progress.
I'd like to call this special meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk or Mr. Clerk? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
I'm here. So tonight's rather unusual. We'll be doing interviews with the applicants for the council vacancy. You know, just getting past the untimely demise of Councilman Gordon has been quite difficult. In November, he's an extraordinary human being, integral part of the council, the community. So it's been a long road to get to this point. Section 32 of our charter does state vacancies on council. If a seat in the council becomes vacant, the remaining members of council by a majority vote shall, as soon as possible, elect a person to fill the unexpired term. So getting to tonight, it has been a little bit of a journey. Our first work session on the topic was back on December the 6th. On December the 11th, in the context of the meeting, we voted on a process. On the 20th, we had some additional discussion on the process. We held listening sessions in Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center in Franklin Park on the 21st, and a subsequent listening session in Greenbelt East at Greenbrier Condominiums on the 30th. So a deadline had been set back on the 11th, and at the meeting on January 3rd, the decision by council was to extend the deadline to open things up, and the deadline for applications was January the 18th. So at this point, we have five applicants for the council vacancy. Let me just back up a little bit and just say our meetings are open to the public except for executive sessions as authorized by state law so that residents and others can observe our deliberations. Tonight's kind of special. It's very unique. We are doing these interviews. So we're going to live stream the interviews, and we're going to sequester the candidates in the library. We've set up a plush buffet for you in the other room. I asked the city manager if he could get lobster. I don't know. I'm not sure. Out of season? Oh, man. Okay.
Make sure to fucking season this Saturday.
So just in terms of process, we're going. Each candidate is going to have a 30-minute window, and each one will have 5 minutes to do an opening statement and talk a little bit about why they decided to run, and a closing statement about 5 minutes. And we've got questions that came to us. We worked on them as a result of public input. Mayor Pro Tem very meticulously set up a spreadsheet. We all aggregated emails from the public. We made suggestions, several of us. The call was actually put out for council members to submit questions, and several council members did. So we're going to go through these questions, and it's not that they're random. They're not random, but you know they're a hodgepodge of questions. But the idea is really to get a feel for the individual. So that's the proposed process for tonight. At the end of the work session, we'll talk a little bit more about tomorrow. We'll be deliberating on these interviews tomorrow. Any comments from council?
Not at this time.
Okay. So 30-minute interviews. We may take a brief break at some point if someone needs to take care of something. So it's going to be kind of a long night, but it should be very, very interesting, very, very excited to be at this point and to have an opportunity to talk to each of the applicants. Let me just say up front, for the people that have applied, we can't select all five of you. So for the ones that are not selected, we want to urge you to continue to be engaged in the city and the affairs, the day-to-day affairs. There are advisory boards, there are any number of ways. And I mean, you're all engaged in different ways in the day-to-day activities of the city, but the advisory boards are certainly a great way to participate. So let's go ahead and dive in. City manager and clerk, can you escort the applicants to their plush buffet?
Yeah, I think. You want to do, he's first.
Oh, Matt's first, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have, yeah. Matt, you're gonna miss out on the buffet.
Right.
Yes, yeah. So, there's a couple,
Once the city manager gets back, we should probably have some bottled water for each candidate available.
Good idea.
When they're out here,
you can have
just in
mine.
case.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think there's more bottles.
okay. It's fine, that's fine.
It's, ACE is meeting with principals, but the principals are not having. I just got a message
Check it
from
through on
Ron to
work
check on
sessions.
that. So, okay, all right.
And let's just hold on. Hey, I want to say this. We were talking about actually just meeting with the candidates one-on-one. So we do have people who are in the room. So I think what I need to say is it's imperative, just for this process that people that are here witnessing, please do not make any remarks, no noises, no acclamations or approval. I mean, that's completely inappropriate. And I will ask you, if that does happen, that you are escorted out of the room, and you'll be free to watch what's going on Zoom or cable TV. And also, in this context of the interview, I want to tell the candidates, please, in the context of your remarks, please do not make any references to other candidates. As we always say, just limit your remarks and avoid questioning the motives of others, and in general, be civil in your remarks. It's very important also. So please do not make references to other candidates. So let's see, we got the timer all set up, and we'll start in just a second. Who's got the timer?
Do we need?
Well, 5 minutes more or less for opening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bonita has one up there, but I don't know that.
Yeah. Just start and keep an eye on that. So, but at 5 minutes, we'll kind of cut you off and we'll go to questions. So, welcome. It's nice of you to be here tonight. Really appreciate the fact that you've put in an application and that you're sitting with us today. So, you've got 5 minutes for an opening statement.
I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here. My name is Matthew Wenzio. I'm going to do my best, because I know a lot of you guys pretty much already know me, but I'm going to do my best to try to give you a piece of me that you might not know. So through the questions and the answers, I think you're going to see, and I'm going to tell you some things that I've kept close to the chest. Things go far back from when I first moved here as a child, and I'm going to go deep into my motivations to be here. A lot of you guys know the good, the bad, but I'm gonna try to share things with you that you guys probably just don't know about. So the key points, I know that I'm the right person for this job. I've lived here 31 years. Public service it's been in my blood. It's been a family tradition. And I'm gonna go into more detail probably with some of the questions. I've served 3 different committees for the past 10 years in Greenbelt throughout my life. if appointed today or this week, I would be the first Latino appointed to the city council ever. And yes, I have ran and lost 2 different elections, and I know how that is, and I know you guys understand that. So I'm open to the questions. I'm excited to be here, and I ask you guys to challenge me with the best questions. And I'm prepared. I have read up on all the issues, and I'm prepared for whatever questions. I plan to be as transparent as I can, and I'm ready.
Okay, and what we're going to do, we're going to kind of work through these. Each council member will, just in sequence, we'll go through these questions. If there's a need for clarification, that's fine. But I've been instructed, these questions were also, we shared them with our Human Resources Department to make sure that we're on questions. So Mayor Pro Tem, why don't you start off and we'll just rotate around and see how many of these we can get to.
Yes, can you identify one unique issue that impacts a specific area of Greenbelt, East, West, and Historic, and describe that?
Specific or
Just an issue that impacts a specific area of Greenbelt that is the question. So you can pick any of those, East, West, or Historic, I believe, but just a very, very specific issue that you think affects one, impacts a specific area of Greenbelt.
I'm going to talk about my vision for Greenbelt, short term and long term. One of my goals is that I would like to see all Greenbelt children go to Greenbelt schools. So one of my long term goals was to try to have another elementary school built in Greenbelt. And I understand that we don't control our zoning rights. But one thing that I do know is that we can work together with the school board, the county council, and us together. We can try to have another elementary school built. The ideal location that I thought of was there's a really good parcel of land on Mandam Road, and I feel like that would be an excellent place for a new elementary school. Another short-term goal, and also the importance of one of the committees that I'm on currently, is the advisory planning board. I want to work with council to make sure that when and if the FBI does finally come to Greenbelt, that Greenbelt gets the best part of what comes from the FBI. I want to make sure that the Greenbelt West in that area gets the best of what they should get. And the second thing, and I'm going to go deeper into probably with some of the questions, is I've been a Little League coach for 10 years in the past. I had to stop recently because when my son became age, I learned that I'm a better watcher of my son than coach of my son. So that's when I really stopped. But I was a Little League coach for 10 years, and I've seen how recreational and soccer fields, it's not the same in Greenbelt West and Greenbelt East. And I have really good ideas in the short-term goals for Greenbelt that can make Greenbelt West, especially Greenbelt East, more inclusive and better recreational. And then my short-term goal is to bring back that sense of safety to Greenbelt. I remember when I was younger, we first moved there to Greenbelt when I was 8 years old, and you can walk to school every day. You can leave your doors unlocked in Greenbelt when I was younger. And I feel like nowadays I've learned that through the door knocking of my last election is that people have lost that sense of security. So my short-term goal for Greenbelt is really to try to tackle that sense of security. And some of the ideas that I've had, and I see that the council probably already implemented some of these, but to bring more community policing to police department. And I've seen that Greenbelt's already done Cops with Coffee. I think that's an excellent part. Another one I've seen is recreational basketball games with citizens and also the police department. If I get on council, I'm going to try to push for more community policing.
Hey, let's keep rolling with the questions. Ms. Pope, do you want to go to the next one?
Number
Two.
2. Oh. Are you aware of the time required to perform this job or this task? Are you willing and available to commit the necessary time to fulfill the duties of a council member?
Of course I am. For the past 6 years, that's when I really started to go to a lot of council meetings. For the past 6 years, I've probably been to close to 100 meetings in council, meetings and work sessions. There's really only been a couple people that I can think of that have been through more meetings. And I'd probably say Bill Orleans, Michael Hartman, and Ms. Rosenthal. Other than those 3 people, I've been to nearly over 100 meetings. And I've made the commitment to go to those. And I promise to make the commitment to go to all the ones in the future. Now, I just want to tell you about the commitment. And I also have an amazing network of close family, friends, and an extremely supportive wife. That's why I'm also here today. So I plan to make it to every meeting. I plan to make it to every trip. I plan to make it to every MML meeting and to be there. And if I've already been doing this. I've already been going to all the meetings. And I'm ready and prepared to meet every single obligation.
Councilmember McKinney.
You have the opportunity to make one major change in the city. What would it be and why?
Can you repeat the question one more time for me?
If you had the opportunity to make one major change in the city, what would it be and why?
Well, I think I've already talked about that. I think the most impactful thing that the council can do in the long-term goal would be to have that all Greenbelt residents and all juveniles go to Greenbelt schools. At the time when I started raising my children here, I had all my children going to Magnolia Elementary School. And Magnolia is an excellent school. But when I moved here when I was 8 years old, my family, we walked from Lakeside North Apartments every day to Greenbelt Elementary School. So I really felt like that I wanted my children to have the same experience that I did. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was a little upset that my children went to Magnolia and they didn't get that same environment that I had at Greenbelt Elementary School. So I think that's something that we can achieve. I've seen that the county is now redeveloping Spring Hill Lake Elementary School. And I think with the influx of children, I think that another elementary school in Greenbelt East, I think that would cure some of the overcrowding in all the elementary schools. And I think that would ensure the next generation of Greenbelters to really stay in Greenbelt. Because I can tell you that when I was younger, from teenager from today, there aren't that many friends of mine that we went to high school with that are still living in Greenbelt. And I think that's a problem. And what I've noticed is they tell me what it is, Greenbelt back then is not the same that it is now. And I know that it starts with the schooling. And I would love to see every child that lives in Greenbelt stays in school in Greenbelt. And that would be one of my major things to push.
Okay, let's see. Mr. Roberts, I believe, has question number 4.
What's your approach to understanding the perspectives of residents from different backgrounds?
Glad you said that. If I get appointed to council, I'd be the first Latino person on council. And I think that's crucial because in Greenbelt West, I think there's a secret majority of Latinos that don't vote, don't come to meetings. All they really want to do is work, provide their family, and that's about it. But it'd be good for them to see somebody that's like them on council. I think that would be crucial for them to bring more people together. If they see people like, hey, I know that guy. He's the first Spanish guy on council, right? Yeah. I think that would help. Also, my wife, it's no surprise that I'm in a mixed marriage, really, a marriage. I think it's good that people see that. You know, me and my wife have 4 children. So I think it's good that people see that. They see a family man. They see somebody that's lived in Greenbelt for 31 years. They see a Spanish guy. And I think that's crucial to bring everybody together.
How would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents in Greenbelt West and East, and civic issue, just getting them more involved in civic issues in Greenbelt?
Question one more time for me.
How would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents in Greenbelt West and Greenbelt East?
You know, the one of the big things that I've always said, we got to stop doing what we've been doing. The social media is probably not working the best. I think that the council needs to have an equal representation on both sides. Since the 2 retirements of Councilmember Byrd and Councilmember Ms. Davis, there's been an uneven balance on council. I think that if I get appointed, it would be an more equal balance for people on Greenbelt East, including myself and Emmett, the mayor, Mr. Jordan, and then that would also even the balance. I've always been a roots guy. I've always been the type of guy that knocks on doors. And if I get on council, I do plan to knock on more doors, to engage more people, to reconnect with more people. Last thing I want to touch is my friend Rick. I do plan to continue Rick's legacy and engage more people around Greenbelt and really truly bring more people together. I want to tell you about a thing that I'm doing recently. One thing, being Rick's friend, we would always chit chat. And one thing that Rick would do is cookies on the bridge. And I'm just recently started to do it, but I'm doing that because 1, to continue Rick's legacy, but for 2, I've walked that same path when I was younger. I walked that same path from Eleanor Roosevelt to Ridge Road where I lived. And one of the biggest reasons why I decided to also do it, because I've seen people get beat up, robbed on that same path. So I want to continue that. And I've only done one time. Me and Betty, she made these amazing cookies, which I probably ate more than I should have. But I plan to continue that. 1 for Rick, and 2 for all the teenagers to have a safe path from walking from over the bridge.
Got a question for you, Mr. Enzio. Describe a situation in which you were in conflict with others and describe how you reached a conclusion.
Glad you said that. I've been a police officer for 17 and a half years. My life, I lived in conflict. Every day is conflict. I'm going to share a stressful situation to you that happened to me last year. I responded to a call where a young lady was in crisis. And through my training and experience, I had to get on the same level as her. So as she's sitting down, she has a knife to her neck, and I'm kneeling down, not to stand over her, but to talk to her at the same level. And given that, I only had a split second when she took the knife off her neck to dive and to disarm her with no force at all. My wife got extremely mad at me because at that point I put my life in a precarious situation. But she lived another day, and on that day I actually think I did get an award for a life-saving award that day also. So I live in a life of crisis. I'm good under pressure. The harder it gets, the better I get. And if I get on council, I can work with a team of people And it doesn't matter how hard it gets, I always perform pretty well.
Tim?
Yeah, I actually, can I ask a follow-up question related to what Mr. Enzo just said instead of reading the next one?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think, I mean, you talk in your letter, your statement of intent, you talk about your career as a police officer and some of the awards and accolades, but I wonder if you could talk a little bit in the current climate that we're in. It's very important to have trust in police officers. And a lot of your letter, you talk about that, and some of that seems to be a good part of what you're saying. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about how you approach that, and how you would balance being a police officer, your experience as a police officer, and some of the things that have come up in the past, and being a council member in Greenbelt.
Excuse me. Well, I like to say that I have been a police officer for 17 and a half years. I have over 700 full custody arrests. I'm also a field training officer, which that means is that once an officer graduates the police academy, he rides with a field training officer for 60 days, where he really gets that one-on-one training. So I am that person that mentors him to teach him from the mistakes that I've made, so he or she doesn't make the same mistakes, and really nurture him. I always preach that police officers are like a bottle of wine. You never want to open a bottle of wine that they just bottled and did. But the better aging this officer gets, the better he becomes, and I'm very proud of that. I've also received 3 life-saving awards and an Officer of the Month. Now, going to your specific question about the standard, I'm always looking for a way to better the police department through reform or better initiatives. I also praise the police department for keeping the CALEA standard. That is the gold standard of public safety. CALEA stands for Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, and I plan to keep that. That's one thing that through the nearly 100 meetings, I've noticed that Ms. Davis, she was proud to keep that. And if I get on council, I'm gonna push that we keep that gold standard, and to make sure that we demand the highest for our police officers, and we always strive for the best.
Ms. Pope, you want to read that next question?
What is your approach to understanding the perspectives of residents from different?
I think we'd move down to the ones
I'm
that
so sorry.
that are on the lower list.
Which one did you read? Number
Number 3.
your prior experiences serving on boards, setting budgets, and establishing policies.
Well, I've served on 3 different committees for 10 years total. When I was in high school, I was on the Youth Advisory Committee for 2 years. One of our accomplishments, and I can't take all the credit and I won't, Jessica is also a Greenbelt resident. She and her parents still live in Greenbelt to this day. She and I got over 100 signatures for a skate park. But one thing bad about Greenbelt is it took 10 years for that skate park. So me and Jessica got 100 signatures on that board. And the bad part is, from 17 years old to 27 years old, there's no way in hell I'm gonna do that half pipe. So if I get on council, I would like to see things done quicker. And I want to work with you guys to get things done quicker. So for the next skate park, for that person to get 100 signatures, I like to see that person use it before he gets too old. Another committee is I served 6 years on the Public Safety Committee. The Public Safety Committee is one of the most special committees that I've been on, and we work together. One of the accomplishments that I can't take all the credit for, Laura Kessler, she led this, And but I'm proud to work with her and the rest of the committee was the mile markers around Buddy Attic Park. And Laura would always say, and the reason why she pitched this, which I thought was amazing, was God forbid if you need to call the police department when you're walking around and you're having a heart attack, that you can say when you call the police, I'm at mile marker 3, and our police department can get to you quicker. For the past 2 years, I have been on the advisory planning board, and I think this is one of the most special boards because we discuss all the future, past, and present developments. And I think one of the biggest things that we're trying to talk about now is how can we, as a board, encourage developers to bring more EV stations and be more pro-environment. And I'm proud to be a part of that.
Wonder if I can just ask a clarifying question. So with setting budgets or establishing policies, can you talk about prior experiences establishing policies or setting budgets?
I haven't done a budget yet, sir, but I have attended many of the past 2 years that when you guys did the budget, I've been there, I've taken notes, I've listened, and I've learned.
Let's see, we're at 22 minutes. We can do another couple of questions, or if you would prefer to make a closing statement. Is that council's will? Do you want to keep with the questions?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can probably
We
get,
can move on.
So if you want to do a closing statement, you've got about so.
My name is Matthew Wenzio. I lived there 31 years. I want to talk about the motivation of why I want to become on council. It would have to start when I was 10 years old. When my dad helped, at the time, Miss Davis get on council. That's where I got the idea and the passion. That's where I saw what it took to be on council. That's where I learned what you need to do to be on council, by watching Miss Davis and by watching my dad work together. I want to talk about my first job. I was a lifeguard at the Greenbelt Aquatic and Fitness Center. This was my first job where I learned how to sacrifice, care for other people. And I did that for 4 years. I think it's important that if I get on council, I would be the very individual that can represent 3 different generations. I've lived in Greenbelt when I was 8 years old, so I think I understand what a child needs in Greenbelt, and then I understand what an adolescent needs in Greenbelt. I lived it, and then now that I'm married with 4 children, I can see what Greenbelt's missing. I can see the struggles. I have a daughter in 9th grade, and I have a 2-year-old. I also have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I feel that I'm one of the few people that if I get on council, that I can represent 3 different generations. And I'm also, my mother is Puerto Rican and my dad is Puerto Rican and Italian. If I get on council, I would be the first Latino descent person on council. And I think that's crucial to bring the community more together so the community can see that there's more people on council that represent them. Last thing I want to say is there have been very special people that have been mentoring me. I've worked on Miss Davis 3 of her campaigns. She has shown me what it takes to be on council. She's shown me the preparation that you need to do to be on council. She would always tell me that you need to read everything to be on council. Don't come to council if you're not prepared. So I live by her message to come here ready for any question. My friend Conrad Herlin, one of the nicest men I know, he always told me to come here and be passionate. Do what do what matters the most to you, you know? And then Councilmember Ed Pewins, he always told me you got to fight for what you believe in. And I'm here, ready. And if I get appointed, I'm very willing to come to every meeting, to work together respectively and work together. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Thank you for applying. Unfortunately, you're going to miss the buffet in the library, but you'll
I'll
have
save
to
some
live
for
with
you.
that.
The Advisory Planning Board.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. So let's go ahead and move to the next candidate. Yeah.
It's there.
Was that coffee?
It's all right. I do not know. You'd have to ask Josue or Benita, whoever made it. I don't know.
Hey, good evening. So thank you for sitting with us tonight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Got about 30 minutes, so you can do a 5-minute opening statement, and you'll have about 5 minutes in the end, and we'll kind of go through these questions with you.
Sounds good. Well, at the risk of repeating what I put in my cover letter for the benefit of everyone watching at home and here, I'm Amy Niesel. I moved to Greenbelt about 10 years ago. We discovered Greenbelt when we were currently living in Hyattsville, and our son needed a nursery school, and so we found the Greenbelt Cooperative Nursery School and absolutely adored it. We moved to Greenbelt about 6 months later, and I jumped right in trying to do everything I could for the community. It was the home I'd always wanted. I loved all of the activities that there were. I was blown away by how much there was for kids and adults. And I wanted to do everything I could to make sure that those resources stayed available. And one of the first things I did was helped revamp the Mamas and Papas group, because that was something that I had used both with my eldest son, who is now 13, and my daughter, who's now 11. Used to go to Rhythm and Rhyme Time, which was an open session every Wednesday, I believe. And it was such a wonderful opportunity, not only for the kids to get together at the youth center, but even more so for the parents, just to feel that sense of community, to know that they weren't going through early parenthood, early childhood years alone. When the person who was running that group had to move on, I took it over, and that was one of the first tasks that I had in Greenbelt, was running the scheduling and running, usually bi-weekly. I would be the leader of that, and it felt so scary at the time to be up there in front of all the adults and kids. And then I realized these are all just my neighbors. That's kind of how I feel here today. But yeah, since then I've continued to just throw myself into every community event and organization that I have time for. Some of the things that I've done are, starting with the nursery school. I was on a hospitality chair for that board. And then moving on to the elementary school, at Greenbelt Elementary School, I was on the PTA for, I believe it was 3 years. And when I did the spring fair in 2016, was another little foray stepping further into the spirit of Greenbelt. I remember that the spring fair was always where you could get in the bucket truck that Public Works had. And I looked around and asked people like, who do I contact for the bucket truck? And I felt so excited to like have the email address of the person who was in charge of the bucket truck. And then I realized they'll take that bucket truck anywhere. But it was another opportunity to do something that felt really scary for me, to reach out to, a public works person and ask them to be part of the spring fair. But really, everyone is just happy to do it. And that is what I love about Greenbelt. And that is what I want to continue to be part of in Greenbelt, is part of the wonderful leadership that keeps things happening for everyone in our community.
See, Councilmember McKinney, we sort of left off with you, so do you want to take the first question at the top of the page?
Sure. Can you identify one unique issue that impacts a specific area of Greenbelt? That can be east, west, or historic center.
Well, the thing that really sticks out the most to me is communication. And I don't actually think that there's a boundary to that. I think that it's everywhere. I will admit that until the city council position opened up, I wasn't part of the email alerts for the city. I had no idea what I was missing. So I think that there are some huge communication barriers, and that can be for everyone. I was very, very happy to hear that the news review is now being placed in more places in Franklin Park, because I know that that is a huge way that we do communicate here in this community.
Okay. Hey, Mr. Roberts, that number 2 question at the top of the page.
All the time is going to be required to be on city council.
I am aware. One of the reasons that this timing feels particularly aligned to me is that just in September, I resigned my position from the old Greenbelt Theater, now Greenbelt Cinema. And I actually was actively looking for other community roles to take on. I was looking into different, working groups that we have both in the city and in GHI. I was talking to Girl Scouts. I'm a Girl Scout leader. And I was talking about maybe being their shared chair, taking on different roles. I want to be of service, and I have the time and capacity in my life right now to serve on council.
Okay. Councilmember Pompey?
Sure. If you had the opportunity to make one major change in the city, what would it be and why?
I would love for more resources to be dedicated in the Franklin Park area. I have long believed that we have such a glut of resources here in the center city. We have a playground on every corner. We have the youth center, the community center. Our meetings are here. I think that there is a lot more that could be done to spread the resources around. I know that space is always an issue, but both programmatically and space planning wise, I would love for more resources to be available in that area.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you make it?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, sir, I can. Are there any specific resources that you're thinking about that you would like to see over at Franklin Park in the area?
Yeah, I would really, really love for one of the first classes I ever took with my son was at Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center. And I know that there really are very small spaces that you can use over there, but I would love to see those filled up with more programs. I would also love for there to be more outdoor play spaces so that children have the chance to be outside. There are fewer and fewer places for kids to be safely themselves outside of their homes. And I think that that is something we really need to focus on.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, let's see. What is your approach to understanding the perspectives of residents from different backgrounds?
I strive to always be a good listener. I believe that the best way to serve your community is to keep your ears open. and your heart open as well. I actively seek out differing perspectives so that I can check myself against my own biases. And I just believe in listening. As much as people want to talk, I want to hear it.
Yeah, so how would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents in Greenbelt West and Greenbelt East?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that there is a lot that I don't yet know about the intricacies of what has already been done and historically been done to do outreach to those communities. I would love to see some larger resourcing of bigger events, because the bigger events can serve as they can springboard you into being able to reach more people. And I think that if we can more effectively have larger events where we are bringing more and more people in, it's going to take a lot of time. And I think that when we as a community are looking at how to improve things for other parts of the city, I want to be careful that we never see time as scarcity, in a scarcity mindset. It takes so much time to build bridges and build neighborhoods and build engagement. And I never want to try something once and then say, oh, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so I'm never going to try that again. I think there are lessons to be learned along the way and ways to better engage. But I think community engagement is the number one thing that we can do to really start figuring out what those next steps would be.
Okay, Councilmember Pope.
Yep. Discuss your approach to communicating with residents across Greenbelt and what you see as the most important responsibilities of a city council member. That's a big question. Sorry.
No,
Do you want me to repeat it?
Yeah, could you repeat it just one more
Of
time?
course,
so I
of
get
course.
both parts?
Discuss or share your approach to communicating with residents across Greenbelt and what you see as the most important responsibility of a council member.
Well, I'll start with the second part because that's a lot easier. The most important responsibility of a council member is to be in service to the community in whatever shape that takes. As for how to better communicate, there are many ways that communication needs to be more accessible. I know that there have been certain meetings started here that have not started with captioning on. There are certain communications that go out that are not in 2 languages. I think that there is so much that can be done as far as increasing that accessibility in the communication. And my experience at the cinema actually gave me a particular insight into this. I was at I'm forgetting the name of the health service company that's tucked in there in Franklin Park. They had a summer festival. It was hot. It was so bananas hot. And I had a booth there for the cinema, and I realized that we didn't have any materials in Spanish. And I was talking to primarily Spanish-speaking individuals, and I didn't have anything that they could take home with them. I didn't have anything that the kids could show to their parents and say, hey, can we go to the theater? I couldn't myself, because I had not prepared, speak Spanish to them and explain, oh, it's on the other side of Greenbelt. And so figuring out ways that we can include everyone in our communications is really, really always top of mind to me. And it's been experiences like that one that have really, really caught me unawares and made me realize how I can do better in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councilmember McKinney.
Can you describe a situation in which you were in conflict with someone else, with others, and describe how you reached a conclusion?
I hate conflict. I really, really don't like it. So I generally just avoid it. I've gone back and forth on what example to share here, and the one that I'm going to share is probably the most embarrassing. I was on a board, and I I got out of line at a meeting, talked out of turn, not like I didn't throw any punches or anything. I talked out of turn in a meeting, and I was taken aside, and I was told that the choice was mine. Like, I could continue to attend meetings and participate in my board responsibilities, but I was not allowed to talk during the meeting anymore. Or I could, resign my position and have someone else do it. And they were very happy to keep me on the board, but I just had to be quiet. And it took a lot because I thought that there were things that I could have brought to that board that I then wasn't able to bring. But I chose to complete my term there. And I ran some wonderful events there despite all of that, because it wasn't between me and that person. It was the community. It had nothing to do with what I was feeling. It had to do with how could I fulfill my role and be in service to the community. And so just separating myself, not taking anything personally, never centering myself in that situation, is really how I deal with conflict.
Mr. Roberts, is that number 3? Bottom section, number 3?
Almost got into that in the last one. Describe your prior experience serving on boards, setting budgets, and establishing policies.
I've been on several boards. The ones that I guess I'm just on one currently, and that is for the Labor Day Festival and the secretary. And so we do have to do elections and budgets and everything like that. I think, though, where I've gotten the most experience was my position at the cinema. I handled budgets, I handled reports to the city, I managed grants, I wrote grants, I handled fundraising. I really got a lot of experience working also with the Friends of Greenbelt Theater Board. And I got a great experience working with city staff, county staff, and even state staff on grants and programs.
May I ask a follow-up question to that one? So from those experiences, from Labor Day Festival and the cinema, is there one thing that stands out that you think you could bring to the council? As what you think you could do?
Hard. I don't think it's one thing, honestly. I am an incredibly collaborative and cooperative person, and I see a position on council not just as me, but working in communication or in collaboration with everyone. And so I think that my perspective is important, or can be important. I believe that I very much want, I never want anyone to walk out of a room feeling unheard. And I think that there are many opportunities, both within council and with our community, that I could ensure everyone has an equal and respected voice.
Give an example of a time when you had to collaborate with your neighbors or others with varying viewpoints to build consensus. How did you approach the situation, and what was the outcome?
Probably, I'll now talk about my favorite event, which is the pumpkin walk. wanted very much to bring the pumpkin walk to 3 locations in Greenbelt because I felt that the Northwoods Trail was both inaccessible for, strollers, wheelchairs, canes, but also very hard to get to if you don't live within walking distance. There's not parking. Driving down Northway Extension is not encouraged on nights of the pumpkin walk. And so it's very important to me that I expand it. So I got a grant from the Greenbelt Community Foundation, and I was just a one-woman show. I was putting it all together, and at one of the later moments was working with Carolyn Lambright Davis on some last-minute things that had to happen for Spring Hill Lake, and she made me cry. I had not done a good enough job talking to her prior to the event, and our expectations were not in line with each other. And we had a good, long conversation, and we were able to solve everything. I brought more pumpkins. We handled another issue that was ongoing. But it was another huge learning opportunity for me that even though I thought I was just doing it all alone, there were lots of other people and lots of other perspectives that needed to be considered.
See, we're at 18 minutes. I can go to another question, and then you'll have 5 minutes to do a closing statement. How would you approach diversity, equity, and inclusion in your leadership style and decision-making process?
Absolutely. I think that one of the first things that I'm going to do, even if I do not get selected, is enroll Coach K, if I've spoken to him about this, and so I know that he is willing, in a cohort of rising organizers, which is, they basically teach people how to do grassroots organizing. And I think that Coach K is such a wonderful resource. And if he's not selected for council, I know that he will have time to take this on and start a civic organization in Franklin Park. I think that would be my absolute number one goal because we have a huge population there who is basically going entirely unheard.
Okay, let's see. We're at what's council? You want to? Well, we've gone through all the questions. So, would you like to give us a closing statement?
Sure. I'm trying to think if there's anything I hadn't talked about yet. I've really enjoyed this experience, even of getting ready to be interviewed and having this chance to be on council. It's something that I had always considered a goal of mine, maybe like a decade in the future when the kids are a little older. But having this opportunity now is really, really thrilling. And it's shown me that it's something I really do want, and I want it now. I'm really, I've been inspired and energized by this process. And so thank you for giving me this opportunity. Even if I'm not selected, I look forward to putting my energies elsewhere in Greenbelt.
Thank you so much for talking with us tonight and for the work that you've done in the community and going through this process. So we really appreciate you, and you should have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Everybody okay?
No.
Just want to be. It's popcorn or something.
Oh, yeah, kettle corn.
Had a small bag of chips today earlier in
Aged
school,
white
so
cheddar.
I'm not gonna lie.
Needs to be treats regularly.
I'm more the chocolate. I'm more the chocolate person.
You're not?
Layer.
Hey, welcome. Pull up a chair. So thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for your application and all that you've done to get to this point in the process. So we got about 30 minutes, and we've got a set of questions that we're asking of all the candidates. You've got, if you want to make an opening statement, you've got about 5 minutes to make an opening statement, and also you have about 5 minutes in the end to closing statement. So the floor is yours.
Well, do you want us to actually like provide the I don't know, do we?
Oh, yeah. So, if you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, basically, a brief introduction, tell us what motivates you to apply for council.
First of all, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Kevin Lockhart, Coach K. Telling you a little about myself, I'm a single dad. I've been living in Greenbelt for 16 years, raising my son, who's in high school, Roosevelt. I've been involved with the community for over 10 years, coaching the kids in the community, football, basketball, baseball. Well known in the community, not only through sports, but a lot of time with the giveaways at Christmas time, the turkeys and stuff, I'd be involved helping out. I'm just involved in the community. I love doing that. I love working with the kids. I'm also did 4 years in the United States Army for the Maryland National Guard right here in Greenbelt before they closed their little thing down. I was trained at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and Fort St. Sam, Houston. I was a hospital dietary specialist and a cook. I was in charge of a MASH unit, so to speak, 23 soldiers. And I have pictures if anybody's interested to see. I did bring some pictures of my military background. Also, I'm a member of Capital Temple Ministries Church in Hyattsville, Maryland. Been there for 25 years. So basically, that's me. Spring Hill Lake is my main home, and the kids there are my kids. Sometimes my son says that I treat them better than I treat him, or I do more for them than I do for him. But it's all, I know kids at Spring Hill Elementary School. I was active there, crossing guard, helping the crossing guards. Greenbelt Middle School also, and Roosevelt High School. So I'm pretty well known in the community, pretty active, and I think I can bring something to the background that I have, especially in the military.
Okay. We got some questions we're asking all the candidates. And so, Mr. Roberts, why don't you take the first one up top?
Identify one unique issue that impacts a specific area of Greenbelt. East, West, and Historic. Yeah. Identify one unique issue which impacts a specific area of Greenbelt, either East, West, or Historic. One issue that impacts a community.
Good issue, bad issue?
Any kind of issue, well,
What impacts all of Greenbelt?
issue, just that one specific area. Is there something that Spring Hill Lake needs that no one else needs, or something we need here that,
I think we all need, Greenbelt needs unity as one. That's what we need. That's what I feel. Then we can work on, when we get together, then we can work on the issues. Everybody, but we got to get together as one first.
Can I ask a question? Do you have any specifics, like, do you have anything specific that maybe Franklin Park needs, or Greenbelt East needs, or the center?
Well,
Anything that comes to mind?
okay, let's just use Franklin Park, for instance. One, I'm gonna name a few things real quick. For one, we have no, communication is not good. We have a lot of children, a lot of kids in Franklin Park, and we don't have the gym. We don't have enough activities for them. I think give something more. East Greenbelt, no, I haven't really looked. Old Greenbelt, we need to share what Old Greenbelt has with everyone. That's why I say Greenbelt needs to be one, because Old Greenbelt, for whatever reason, has a lot. And go, but we need to.
Coach Kate, you may need to get a little bit closer to the microphone. Yeah, or either pull it forward or yeah, because it'll go red when it's.
If I pull it, will it come loose?
You should be able to pull it a little bit.
That's good.
Yeah, there.
Okay.
That's better.
Okay.
It needs to light up red. That indicates.
That'll mean I'm talking. Okay. I can hear it now too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Councilman Poppy, you got a question?
Yes. Are you aware of the time required to perform the job of a council member? And are you willing and available to commit to the necessary time to fulfill the duties of a council member?
From what I understand, it's a 2-year commitment, and it's 2 or 3 meetings a week, and it's a lot of appearances or just showing up. Yeah, I'm prepared for that. Yes, no question. I'm available.
Okay. Here's the third question we got. If you had the opportunity to make one big change in the city, what would it be and why?
Okay. If I had the opportunity to change something in Greenbelt, it would be something beneficial for the children, because they're the future. And we have to put something in place for them to carry on what we've put together, what we've started. I would try to be an example to other communities that we can come together as one and make our place, Greenbelt, a better place to live. So I would just try to bring us together through sports, through whatever we could bring us together with. And sports is a good thing because our kids play soccer, baseball, basketball. Doesn't matter who you are, what you are. we play together, and maybe through that we can learn to exist a little better.
Thank you. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
So what is your approach to understanding the perspectives of residents from different backgrounds?
So, my perspective of different backgrounds. You asking me, is it difficult working with people with different backgrounds? Are you
Well,
asking
how
me-
do you seek to understand the perspectives that are maybe different from your own? What would you do to understand the perspective of residents who have a different perspective, a different viewpoint than you?
Well, first of all, I think that I would, we sit down and talk, and I would hear what they have to say, and you know, there's always a middle ground or a common ground. So, I mean, their views might be different than mine, but we would try to. I would try to, like I said, try some middle ground, or try to understand where they're coming from, and put my thoughts aside, or my issues aside, and put theirs up front and understand where they're coming from, because I'm not them. They're telling me, so I would listen. I would be very supportive, and I would bring whatever I need to bring to whoever on their behalf.
Ms. Pope, Councilmember Pope.
5, how would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents in Greenbelt West and Greenbelt East, in civic issues for Greenbelt? Let me repeat. I always get these long questions. I'm going to repeat. How would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents Greenbelt West, Greenbelt East, in civic issues for Greenbelt?
I would think that we would have to come together in a meeting, and discuss whatever the issues are, and come to some common ground, whatever the issues might be, whether it's something for East Greenbelt, something for West Greenbelt. Once again, I have this vision of just being Greenbelt, so we won't have to go through, well, what is West Greenbelt wants this, and East Greenbelt, well, it's Greenbelt. And we just, what the East gets, the West gets. We don't have no, you get this because you're in the East, you get this because you're in the West, or you don't get this. We need to just, we can work together.
Councilmember McKinney.
Describe a situation where you were in conflict with someone else. Describe how you reached a conclusion.
Walk away. No. You have to sit down and after, especially if you heat it, calm down and reach out to whoever and talk about coaching has put me in the situations like that, and sometimes you don't always the outcome isn't what you it should have been, or how you should have been. I mean, we're human, but I have learned through coaching that when conflicts or disagreements arise, sometimes that's why I said walk away. Sometimes it's best to just at that time just walk away for a minute, calm down, gather yourself, and then come back and deal with it. Because us going back and forth, arguing and going back, we're not going to get nowhere. And I've been through that before, so I know for a fact that that don't work. So yes, I would calm myself, and we would discuss it and get it right.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, what is that? It's number 2 in the bottom section.
Discuss your approach to communicating with residents across Greenbelt and what you see as the most important responsibilities. Sorry about that. The most important responsibilities of a city council member. Discuss your approach to communicating with residents across Greenbelt and what you see as the most important responsibilities of a council member.
So, what are the most important things of a council member? Listening to the constituents, hearing their needs, their wants, communicating with the community, knowing how to relate to the different issues that they have. One thing I would tell them, being a councilman, you have to listen, and you don't always have the answer, but you have to at least give them some hope that you know that you're going to go try to find the answer, or you're going to come up with a solution. I guess that's just, and being truthful, being honest, trustworthy, and be available. That's the main thing too. Be available. So,
Yeah, please.
I'm just curious, Coach K, had you, prior to this opening, had you considered running for office in a regular election process, or what led you to think about it specifically now?
well, I had went to a meeting, not planning on it. I sat in the back and I listened, and unfortunately, one of the members of your council had passed, and I was good friends with him. And that night at that meeting, it just like, man, I'm involved with the community. I know a lot of the people in the community. I'm involved with the kids. I can help a lot if I was on this council. I felt, and that's what started it. I never did this before. No, you're right. And it to just come up like this, it was like, okay. And I'm glad I did. I'm learning a lot, and I'm excited. I'm hoping to stay involved in the community and I'm enjoying it. So.
Councilmember Poppy.
Can you describe your prior experiences serving on boards, setting budgets, and establishing policies?
Well, in the military, I served on the board. I had to bring supplies and stuff. I had to take care of ordering the food and making sure that it was enough for the men in the unit. I was in charge of 50-something men and women, giving out assignments on the weekends. The drill sergeants and sergeants would leave me in charge. as that's concerned, I did well. Like I said, I got a bunch of commendations and letters that if y'all want to see, more than welcome to look at. And this,
Thank you.
So while we're looking, I'll keep rolling. Um, can you give us an example of a time when you were working with your neighbors and others of varying viewpoints to build agreement, consensus? So how'd you approach this, and what was the outcome?
say that once again.
So an example of a time when you were working with your neighbors, collaborating with your neighbors or others, and they had different points of view, and you were trying to build a consensus. So just come to an agreement. An example of when you were working through an issue with your neighbors and different ways of looking at things. So how did you approach trying to get everybody to agree?
Well, first thing, after hearing everybody, you don't always get everybody to agree. So, I can't even think of one. I'm trying to think of a time where everybody was on board. But the majority, like I said, we talk about it. There's been some issues. I'll give an example in Franklin Park with a situation in one of the buildings, and the neighbors weren't happy with what was going on. They came to me. I went on behalf of them to the resident manager, and it got taken care of, but two of the residents weren't happy because they wanted it another way, what was done, and it was done the majority. And of course they were angry, but you can't always make everybody happy. I realized that, and as much as I try to, because I like to be liked. I like everything to be. I want everybody to be, but you can't. And so I realized that. So some you're gonna make happy, and some you're not. But if you can make the majority happy, then you did a good job. So.
You are so right.
Senior Pro Tem.
I know
We're getting
that.
kind of close down to.
Yeah, I think this is the last one on the list. How would you approach diversity, equity, and inclusion in your leadership style and decision-making process?
How would I say it again?
So how would you approach diversity, equity, and inclusion in your leadership style and decision-making process?
Be open. I'd be open to that. You have to be open, and then you can't be closed-minded. People, we all are different, but we all are the same. And you you have to learn, and you have to be around people to learn and know what their likes, dislikes, what they do that you might not do, or what they might believe in you don't believe in, or what you just have to trust that you be how can I say, how you be mindful and compassionate about other people and their feelings, and just do what's the best you can do.
Hey, so that was the last of the set questions, and we've had about 24, 25 minutes. So feel free to, you want to wrap things up or make a closing statement, or whatever you want to say is fine.
Okay. I do want to say this. I came into this, and I went through a lot of walls. It was a lot of deadlines and a lot of, you don't have this, you don't have that, your signatures aren't right, and I was determined not to be discouraged, and I feel good because I beat the walls down. I stood tall. I didn't let nothing discourage me. And so I really would like to serve on the council. I know each and every one of you. Some better than others. But I think I'd be a good candidate, a good councilman, especially with knowing so many people in the community. And the kids, once again, for me, it's about the kids. I've been coaching since my son was 6 years old. I started coaching and I continued, and I only stopped because I had gotten sick last year. And then I was going to continue, but this came up. And I said, this is where I need to be. This is where I can make a better impact, not just with baseball and football, basketball, but other things with the community. And 16 years here, this is my home. I'm from the Bronx, I'm from New York. I miss it, but this is my home. And I wanna serve on the council. I wanna serve Greenbelt. I wanna make a difference. And I think I can do that being a councilman. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully the outcome will be good.
Hey, appreciate you so much. Thank you for interviewing with us, talking with us tonight. So we're going to do the other interviews, the other candidates. Tomorrow night we'll be meeting and trying to figure out how we're going to go forward. Not sure exactly how long it's going to take, but we're going to put our heads together and get it done. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and y'all have a good evening.
Too. So we're about 10 minutes ahead. Do we want to take
Take a 10-minute break?
a brief break? If anybody needs a bathroom break?
Okay. Let's take a 10-minute break.
Thanks for coming.
Oh my goodness, I'm tired.
I mean, everyone, it's like everyone's good in different ways. I don't have.
Everybody's got something.
Yeah, it's for sure, for sure.
Check this coffee out.
You do have a
Yeah.
I,
No.
Oh, is this thing working? Can you hear me? Okay.
We should maybe do like brief breaks more often in council meetings.
Yeah. It's good for the health and the body. Not to be long.
No. That would be the problem if I were drinking coffee at council meetings, is that I would need the break in
yeah.
between. We'll be right with you, Mr. Schachter. We're just, yeah.
Dug your suit out, huh? All fancy.
All right. Haven't had to put a suit on for quite a while. Yeah.
One of the things that I had to do when I got elected on council was go buy some more suits and jackets
Sure.
because I had
Yeah.
not had to wear them very much previously.
I've got several hanging in the closet.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that's between the election and the swearing in. That's one of the things I did when my parents were here in 2021 was we went and bought some suits.
That was one of the, speaking of women buying suits, I decided I had to have a dress code at work. So I wrote up a dress code and circulated it around, got everybody's comments, and said something about, business attire. And I got back complaints from the lady, well, what's business attire for us? I said, I don't know, you tell me.
Smaller than that.
So let's go ahead and get started again.
That's why I've been doing.
Let's go ahead and get started. So we're halfway, a little bit past halfway through, and we're talking to all of the each of the 5 candidates. You've got about 30 minutes to work with, and you've got 5 minutes for an opening statement. You can talk a little bit about what a brief introduction, what motivates you to apply for the vacancy. You'll have time at the end for a closing statement, and we've got a set of questions that we'll ask. So that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
So welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. It's a wonderful opportunity to be here. I look
Please proceed.
forward to answering all of your questions. I did not prepare a written opening statement, but I'll give you a few thoughts nonetheless. I'm highly motivated to do this because I have found that being fully retired doesn't suit me. It's not providing me with kind of happiness I've experienced in the past. And I've thought back about that, what really does make me happy. And it's having a purpose to help others. And if I can have an opportunity to fulfill that purpose, I'll feel really happy, as I've felt in the past. And I've had a long career of being in positions, both as a council person and with nearly 40 years of federal service, moving up through the ranks from a GS9 to senior executive service and really molding my own organization, which required identifying stakeholders and cooperating with endless numbers of people with diverse interests to achieve the results I want. And I think I have achieving those kinds of positive results by working with other people, understanding their points of view and trying to bring them around to mine, and ultimately making my own decisions based on my informed, and I emphasize the word informed, conscience. So that's really, I think my resume speaks for itself. And I've been here to a few of your meetings now, and I think you've know that I'm not shy about standing up and having a point of view and articulating that, and then let the system work as it does. One question that I'm anticipating you'll be asking me, and I think I'll answer it in advance if I might, is why didn't I run for election? And I was not aware of any vacancies on the council. I don't know if there were or not. I suspect maybe they were because you have a couple of new people, but I didn't know it. And I had no dissatisfaction whatsoever with how the city was working or how the council was managing the city's business. As far as I knew, everything was fine. So I had no incentive whatsoever to try to replace anybody. But when a vacancy came along and I became aware of it, I thought, now here is a wonderful opportunity to once again have a purpose in life other than visiting my grandchildren. And they're not so interested anymore. The two oldest are 20 and 19, and the kids at the other end of the spectrum are, 1 and 5, and they're not interested in me either. So I needed a purpose in life, and this looked like a really good opportunity to have that. So here I am. And I'm in good health, thank God. I have a lot of energy and the will to do this.
Well, thank you very much. So we do have a set of questions, and we're just going to go round robin. And Councilmember Poppy, do you want to start things off?
I do. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Can you please identify one unique issue that impacts a specific area of Greenbelt, east, west, or historic?
Identify an issue that I'm aware of now.
Yes.
Yes, I think we're all collectively facing a $2.5 million deficit that's going to have to be divided up some way. It's going to be a reduction of services, and it's a question of where those services would be taking place. I know that there's an issue coming up as to what you're going to do with the municipal building, and I did go to the recent meeting of the advisory group. I saw their presentation, and I think there's some very stark choices that have to be made in terms of how you're going to move forward. And I think that obviously it impacts the center of town, where I think anything you do has to be focused on the Roosevelt Center, in my opinion, but it obviously is going to impact the entire city, what choice you make. So that's on my agenda, to pay very close attention to how those two things pan out. How are you going to deal with the deficit, and how are you going to deal with whatever is ultimately decided on the municipal building? It'll impact the entire city.
Yeah, thank you. So are you aware of the time required to perform this job? Are you willing and available to commit the necessary time to fulfill the duties of a council member?
Absolutely, without any hesitation whatsoever. I'm fully retired. I didn't become fully retired until this past January, a year now, in which I was practicing law, and that was keeping me very occupied. But the owner of that firm decided to close it down, and I decided to try out full-time retirement. So I have, in terms of time available, I don't have a job to attend to. I have family nearby, but as I said, the grandchildren are all busy already with their own lives, and I have plenty of time to see them on weekends when they're not in school. And other than that, I'm totally free to devote whatever amount of time is needed for this. And of course, I sat through the issue with respect to the Franklin situation, and I don't live there, but I can tell you that I'll devote whatever time is needed to personally visit every section of the city. I'll do that both in person and virtually. I plan to have my own Zoom account so people can reach me and I can reach them by Zoom. I already hang out at the New Deal Cafe. I'll make myself available there or at the public library for people to come and see me. I have all kinds of time and all kinds of energy from which I will derive a lot of good feeling about myself. I'll be happy. The more involved I'll be, the happier I'll get. I like people, and I like talking to people, and I like listening to them. So it all works very well for me. That's an absolute non-issue for me. I don't owe my allegiance or to anything or anywhere else. I see no conflict whatsoever.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, if you had the opportunity to make one major change in the city, what would it be and why?
I would want to consult with fellow council members and get a lot of input from the city, from citizens. But my starting point would be the citizens would be better served if we had a ward system where council people were elected from the ward in which they were residing. I think that would take care of the illusion, or maybe I should even call it the delusion, that some parts of the city are underrepresented because their representative is not living there. I don't really think that's so real, but I think it's a real public perception that could be fixed by being elected from your particular ward. And of course, that is the system they had in place in Cheverly that I'm intimately familiar with. But I'm not locked into it either. But it would be a cause or an issue that I would hope the council would seriously look at and get a lot of input. What are the pros and what are the cons? And then come to a conclusion, but something that should be addressed. So I think that would be the biggest thing that I have in mind. The other thing that comes to mind, I did see the presentation on what to do with the municipal building. An excellent presentation giving some very stark different approaches. And I came away liking their recommendation, which is slow down, don't commit to anything yet. You got to get a lot of public input in terms of, one, what is needed and what is best for the city in the short and the long haul. They're talking of the options I saw is take this building and build up, or use this building, keep it, and fully occupy it with auxiliary uses that it's currently getting, take city council and the purely government operations and either build up and put them upstairs in this building, or build an entirely new building somewhere behind the Roosevelt Center, which would be very expensive, but kind of a glorious thing to do. But I would want to look into that.
We have not seen that presentation
Okay,
yet.
you'll,
So.
I think, well, you definitely need to see it.
We'll see it. We'll
In
see it.
debate.
You're just
Okay.
giving her away.
But it sounds very intriguing, so now.
It's very interesting,
forward to seeing it.
and I think I think is
Yeah.
not going to be an easy decision because you're talking about the potential expenditure of a lot of money, and there's a difference between. And this is also my approach to spending the taxpayers' money. There's a difference between nice to have and need to have, and that's certainly going to come into play on that issue.
Okay, let's see, Ms. Pope? Or, yeah.
What is your approach to understanding the perspectives of residents from different backgrounds?
Well, I have to be careful in terms of my phrasing here because I don't want to say something that is old school. But I like to believe that I'm colorblind, and it doesn't matter the background of the person I'm talking to or listening to. The whole idea is to listen to their perspective and try to understand where they're coming from. And the Black experience and the Latino experience and the white experience are not the same. I know that much. So you have to try to understand each person's perspective, where they're coming from. You don't have to agree or disagree. You do have to listen and leave them with the belief that they were listened to. One of the things I did for the federal government, I was absolutely devoted to due process, giving people the opportunity to be heard and to have witnesses, an impartial person to make the decisions. And I told my people the culture here is nobody is going to have a hearing here and walk out of here feeling they weren't heard. They may win, they may lose, but you have to conduct the proceeding in a way that they're convinced they were heard. And that is very important to me, and you just have to make yourself do it. So I would just hope to listen to everybody, understanding that they have different perspectives than mine, different upbringing, a different culture, and do the best I can understand where they're coming from, but ultimately make them feel that I heard them.
Councilmember McKinney.
How would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents in Greenbelt West and in Greenbelt East, in civic issues in Greenbelt?
I would build on what I've already said publicly. I think Greenbelt West should be encouraged and helped to form a neighborhood civic association, which would have an identifiable leadership, and then make myself available to that leadership to find out what are their issues, what are their needs, and what can I do and what can the council at large do to move the ball forward for them. And that would start by making myself available. You can't do it by sitting here. You have to do it by sitting there. So I would set up a time during the week where I would go to their athletic center there where you had your meeting, and pull up a chair, and I'm there. And if people come, and let people know as best I could through the internet, maybe put a little blurb in the newspaper. This is when I'm going to be there. Please come and talk to me and see what comes, see who comes. And if they don't come, don't give up. Be back again the next week and the week after that. And if they're still not coming, then rethink what needs to be done. Is there any other way that I can outreach to those communities? Same thing for the east side, although I have the impression at this point that the problem is not as acute. I have the impression that side of town is more content, maybe justly so or not justly so. But I would do the same for both sides of town. And of course, I'm already living right dead in the heart of town, what I call the soul of Greenbelt. I really think the Roosevelt Center is this city's claim to distinction. It's the soul of the city and needs to be protected and encouraged and not ignored either. For example, I believe completely in free enterprise. But I don't understand how that the mini mart survives. Who's it serving? I never see anybody in there. How are they making enough money to pay the rent? Who are they paying the rent to? Isn't there a better use for the community at large that could go into that space? Maybe a bagel shop, maybe a coffee shop. You have to be careful not to compete too much with the New Deal Cafe, but that's a space that I would like to see improved. There are other spaces that are being rented out. They're bringing in some money for somebody in the Roosevelt Center, but I don't think it's the optimum use for the community. I would like to see things that are more appealing to a broader segment of the community, to build on our historic beginnings, build on the idea that Old Greenbelt is a special place. It is a special place, and build on that theme.
Yes, please.
Yeah, because you mentioned in your documentation some of your connections to Greenbelt and your experience in Cheverly. How long have you actually lived in Greenbelt proper?
A very short period of time. I've only lived in Greenbelt for 2 years, but I've had a long-standing, meaningful connection to the city of Greenbelt. My two eldest, I have 4 kids. They're all adults now, but the 2 oldest are in their 50s, and they were raised here. And I came to visit them here often over many years, all through grammar school, high school. They went to grammar school here. They went to the Roosevelt High School there, here. My former wife and their mother lived there until she passed away, which has been a long time now, about 20 years ago. But I came and had a good relationship with her. I was welcome in their home, got to know their neighbors, and I was here a lot. And I wasn't that far away. I was in Cheverly, which is right down the road. So yes, I did not live here, but a big chunk of my life was here nonetheless. And even in more recent years, until I fell off and broke my neck, I did bicycle rides 2 days a week right here out of Greenbelt. First, for many years, right out of Buddy Attic Park. And what would we do when the bike ride was over? The best part of the ride was having lunch either at the New Deal or taking food out of the co-op and sitting there and eating and talking the rest of the afternoon away. I did that a couple of days a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. So I had a continuing relationship, kind of a feeling of belonging to the city all the way through. I mean, when I went through separation, I had to decide what am I going to do, and this was the first and last place I considered to live. I knew exactly where I was going to go, and I'm very happy where I'm living now. It's a bit of an adjustment, living alone, taking care of myself. If I had known better about how to take care of myself, I might not be living alone. But now I know. And I'm not taking care of you in your old age. Get out. So, but here I am. And it's a very good living arrangement. And I'm very happy. And I walk up to the New Deal. I walk up to the co-op. I get my hair cut right there. I get my car fixed right there. I mean, the only thing that's missing, we need to have a dry cleaner here in town, And I had to look for a dry cleaner. Where's that at? None here. So that'd be something that I would help promote. There was a way to get that kind of a business into the Roosevelt Center somewhere, help facilitate that. I think it'd be a good thing for the community.
Used to be one of them.
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts, what would be was that the first question and the second section? Is that where we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Get up here. Describe a situation in which you were in conflict with others and describe how you reached a conclusion.
Oh, thank you for that question. That's a really good one. At my work for the federal government, I wound up in charge of an organization called the Directorate for Industrial Security Clearance Review. It had one mission. The mission was to resolve security clearance issues for people in industry. And I thought to myself, this organization can be much more. It can be much more. We can be resolving security clearance issues for the entire federal government, not just industry. We can do it for all the federal departments and industry, and we have the best people going to do it. I have professional administrative judges, of which I was one at the time, that are super competent at doing this job well. So why not share the wealth and grow this organization? Well, I ran into tremendous opposition to that. Other federal department, nobody wanted to give up their basket. Yeah, don't talk to us about the merits or anything else. We're not letting you do this. And so there came a time when I was able to promote it enough so that I was offered to allow my judges to write recommended decisions, not the final decision, which would be appealable, which I thought they should do, which would be the most efficient and the fairest, but I was offered a compromise that they could write recommended decisions. I took the compromise. I agreed to it. I said, okay. And in my mind, that was a big step forward. My boys and girls would be writing recommended decisions. Everyone would get to see the quality of their work. And in short order, and by short order, I meant a couple of years, everyone would see the light and we would be asked to do final decisions. It's now been 20 years. Couldn't budget. Every year, every administration for 20 years, I tried to, reason, never could get the system to budge. And to this day, it hasn't happened. But that was a big compromise that I made. But if I hadn't, perhaps we would have nothing. I mean, but in hindsight, I think I would have, maybe I should have tried harder and longer, but I tried for a long time. So that it's a really wonderful example of my leadership trying to compromise and not getting everything I wanted, but getting something significant.
Okay. Hey, we're at the 25-minute mark, so you've got 4 or 5 minutes to go ahead and wrap things up with a closing statement, whatever you want to say or talk about.
I feel like I've covered all my points. The only thing I didn't put in my resume, I'll just throw it out. In terms of diversity, I look at all of you and I think I'm considerably chronologically older. And I think people get better as they get older because they get more experience. So I think I could add just a little bit of diversity in addition to what you already have, wonderful diversity as it is. But I think in the sense of being a senior citizen, I think I could add a little bit of perspective, a little bit of wisdom, and a whole lot of experience that you may not all have. And I'll throw in that I'm also a veteran. I served the United States Army proudly for 4 years. I did not go to Vietnam, but it was during the Vietnam era. So I experienced that, and I got permission to wear my uniform and march with my wife around the White House, opposed to the war. But I did it in accordance with the rules and got permission to do it, got it in writing, and so did my colleagues. and we were those rebel army lawyers who wanted to see change. So we exercised our political views, but at the same time, were held our allegiance to the system. So that's part of my history. I'm very proud of having served in the military honorably. So that's about everything I have for you.
Hey, well, thank you so much for joining us this evening, for applying. I hope the plush accommodations in the library were to your
I had chips,
satisfaction.
I had candy bars, I had water. I mean, what more could you
We are so
ask?
generous.
Well, I do have one question for tomorrow. Are you going to be deliberating in closed session or is it going to be open?
We're going to talk about that a little bit. It depends. But, and we hope to reach a decision tomorrow. It's possible that we may not, but it's possible that we may. So we're going to chat about that a little bit. Mayor Pro Tem?
I think official votes need to be in open session, whether yeah.
Yeah.
So that would happen in open session regardless.
Yeah, I see that a little differently, but, so we'll see about that.
Is it all right if I stay here now?
I suppose it's fine.
If you suppose it's fine, then I suppose it isn't. I mean, if there's
Nobody
any
else
doubt, I
asked.
won't.
None of the other candidates asked
Oh, no,
to stay.
Did
They all
anybody
left.
stay?
No.
No, then I won't either. Okay, fine.
Thank you.
We'll see you. Well, I guess I'll come tomorrow and see whether it's open or not.
There will at least be an open part before whatever we decide. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
One more to go. Fortunately, the food co-op and the other grocery stores are closing at 10, so I don't think I'm going. Close at 9 in the summer. They changed it back.
Well, no, they're
in
closed
the
at 8
winter.
right now. In the winter, they're closed at 8.
Do you need to go shopping?
Well, you know, I wanted to get the was it the 20% off sushi on Tuesday?
You get there at 4 o'clock, it's
And
done.
it's all
Yeah,
gone?
Don't worry about going now.
Okay.
There's no sushi left.
Oh man.
That's a hot tip, though. Do you have a?
Yeah, 4, if you really, on Tuesdays, if you go,
sushi,
there is no
get there
sushi left
early.
at
Get
3
there early,
3
yeah.
o'clock, 3:30 or something. There's no sushi left.
Too.
I remember that too, yeah.
It is a pretty good deal.
Where the,
Yeah.
The cinema, the second screening room.
But I do like what's in
There's
there
a
now
maker
better than
space
the
before
cleaners,
that.
for sure.
I remember when.
It was a heavy lift because, you know, you had all the equipment and, you know, there's a lot of toxic stuff involved with dry cleaning. Hey, Julie, good evening.
Good evening. Am I close enough? Oh, good.
For that. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I think we went in alphabetical order or reverse alphabetical order or something.
Very alphabetical.
Okay. So I appreciate the fact that you stuck with us to this late time this evening. But we've got about 30 minutes or so to talk. And we're going to provide you, as with the other candidates, 5 minutes to, you know, make an opening statement, maybe talk about what motivated you to run, to apply for this vacancy. You have 5 minutes towards the end, at the end, for a closing statement. And we've got a series of questions that we're going to ask that we've asked all the other candidates. So let's just dive right in. Who's next? Is it me?
Might as well. I don't think that. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, opening statement first, yes.
That's okay. I won't have a lot to say, but I will make a brief statement for people who don't know me. I'm Julie Winters. I've lived in Greenbelt for 27 years. I've worked as a copy editor for all my career. In Greenbelt, in terms of community activities, I've been with the Friends of New Deal Cafe Arts for 6 years on the board. And I am one of the moderators for the Greenbelters group on Facebook, which is the largest community group that is devoted to Greenbelt. I've been doing that for nearly 9 years. And that's given me a lot of perspective on what different people in Greenbelt care about, think about, worry about. And it's just given me a lot of exposure to lots of Greenbelt people over a long period of time. And I was moved to apply for this position because I'm empathetic, I'm a good listener, I have a collaborative spirit, I'm able to balance a lot of different things, different viewpoints, and give real consideration even to viewpoints that I am not naturally inclined to agree with. I really try and see the merit in different viewpoints. And I thought when this opportunity came up, hey, this is a thing I could do. This is a way I could serve the community. I'm not a person who's ever run for city council. I'm not sure it ever would have occurred to me to run for city council if an opening had not occurred in this way. But once it did, I thought, well, I love Greenbelt. I want what's best for the city. I think I could do a good job in this role.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll go ahead and start off with the questions. Let's see. Identify one unique issue that impacts a specific area of Greenbelt, east, west, or center.
One specific issue that is affecting Greenbelt West right now is the state of the apartments in Franklin Park. I've been hearing a lot of things about mice and other vermin and really deplorable living conditions in that community. And I really feel like that's an area that needs to be addressed. I didn't realize how bad it was. And I'm really concerned about that as a citizen, that people are living in really, really terrible conditions. And I understand it's not the entire community that is affected, but definitely there seem to be parts that are. And I think that's something that needs to be looked into.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Are you aware of the time required to perform the job? Are you willing and available to commit the necessary time to fulfill the duties of a council member?
I've certainly learned something about the time involved in the past couple of months of coming to the meetings. I understand that it's not just coming to meetings. I understand there's a lot of reading and preparation and going to community events and going to events that are outside the city to be connected on the county level and the state level. And I do feel like I want to do a good job for the city, and I'm prepared to do what it takes to do those things.
Okay, Councilmember Pope.
If you had the opportunity to make one major change in the city, what would it be and why?
I don't know if it would count as a major change, but I would definitely like to look at changing how we vote for council. I would like to look at ranked choice voting. I would like for us to for the council to consider the idea of wards again. I think that this would help people across the city feel more invested in what's going on, feel like they have skin in the game. I like the idea of ranked choice voting because right now I feel like our voting system requires people to be overly strategic about how they cast their votes and really think, oh, do I want to vote for one person or two people? Or if I vote for this person, does that increase or decrease this other person's chances of getting in? And I think that is not, I think it's kind of madness. I think that we need to have one clear system where everybody is going in with the same assumptions about what their vote will mean. That's a thing I would like to see addressed.
Councilmember McKinney?
What is your approach to understanding the perspectives of residents from different backgrounds?
I think my approach is really listening, knowing that I can't be in somebody else's shoes, but trying to imagine what it is like to be in somebody else's shoes. As I said before, I think I'm very empathetic, and I value people. I value the fact that people who are not me are going to have different perspectives on things. And they're going to have their own reality. They have their background, they have their current living conditions, they have their education, they have their relationships, and they have their own experiences. And I think I'm good at listening to people and giving credence to what those experiences are.
Okay, Mr. Roberts, I think you're on, is that question number 5 on the top?
How would you approach building community engagement and participation, particularly from residents in Greenbelt West and Greenbelt East, in civic issues for Greenbelt?
I think communication is a large issue that needs to be thought about more. And I understood from the meeting last night that the city manager talked about the importance of communication and being more methodical about that. I was on the city website a few days ago, and I stumbled upon something called the City Communicator, which is a quarterly newsletter that is, according to the website, mailed out to every household. I'd never heard of this newsletter, and I asked my friends on Facebook, have y'all, in Greenbelt, I said, have y'all ever heard of this newsletter? And several of them had not, or they said they've seen it once. And I like to think my friends are pretty plugged in locally to what's going on. They're thoughtful people too. And if so many people are unaware of this thing in central Greenbelt, then what's going on in Greenbelt East and Greenbelt West about knowing just about this one single communication tool. And I think that reaching out to the other parts, to all parts of the city about the different ways they can learn about what's going on in the city would help. I would want to make sure people not only got the news review but understood what it was. Maybe people just think it's a circular, like so many other circulars that sit in a box that aren't meaningful. I would like to make sure that more people knew that the Greenbelt News Review is one of the major ways that events and items of interest in the city are communicated to the citizens. So I think communication is really the place to start. Make sure people know what's there. I know we give out a welcome packet to people on request, but if you don't know about it, how do you know to request it? And I think that packets of information that describe more of what's in the city and where in the city these things are would help people just know what's available. And I feel like that would help them want to be more dialed into things.
I want to ask just sort of a clarifying question.
Sure.
So, you moderator for Greenbelters. So I'm just wondering, specifically with Greenbelt East, do you have any ideas about improving community engagement in Greenbelt East?
I wouldn't say that I have any specific ideas about a specific area of the city, beyond trying to find out who the leaders are in the different parts of the city and try and pull them in more and ask them to reach out more as well and ask them who they know. I mean, I think all of these areas have their kind of movers and shakers, and reaching out to them to show them that the council cares and asking them for their input would help make people feel more dialed in.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? The Greenbelters is a good tool for communication, and I see a lot of things, but unfortunately, a lot of things get just taken off, or some of the messages are getting rejected. So it's sometimes a little difficult to communicate. But I think it's interesting, and it's an interesting tool. I just wonder, do you know what your percentage is from different parts of town? Who is you? There's no way of knowing, right?
No, there's really no way of knowing. And part of the reason is that people don't always say where they live. Some people live in Greenbelt, but they say they live in DC. Some of our members are people who don't live in Greenbelt anymore, but they grew up here and they're still invested in what goes on. Some people join because they come to Greenbelt for events and they like the city and they enjoy spending time here. And so they kind of want to stay dialed into what's going on socially, but they don't actually live here. So no, we don't have a mechanism for figuring out who is where.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Maybe my things won't get taken down a lot.
Describe a situation in which you were in conflict with others and describe how you reached a conclusion.
It's a really great question. I think there are times where, just using an example from my life in the role in my moderating role in Greenbelters, where we actually have 3 active moderators and we make a lot of the decisions more or less together, and we just talk about what we think about a particular thing. If something's coming out that that one of us might feel needs to be removed, for example, we'll talk with each other about that and come to some accord. I don't really have much more to say than that.
Okay. Let's see. Is it me?
Number 2 on the second section.
Could you just discuss your approach to communicating with residents from across Greenbelt and what you see? What do you see as the most important responsibilities of a city council member?
I think it's really important to go to events, let people know you're there, talk to people, and just relate to them as people and see if they use those opportunities to bring their concerns to you. Certainly, I'm in the community. I talk to people. I'm not sure I really have a specific approach. I'm just sort of out there and introduce myself and kind of see what comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, can you describe your prior experiences serving on boards, setting budgets, and establishing policies?
Yeah. I don't have a lot of board experience other than being on Friends of New Cafe Arts board. And we look at the events that we plan to sponsor in a given year and make sure that we have money for those events. I haven't had a lot of experience with saying, well, we want to do 9 things, but we only have money for 5. What's going to go? So that is an area that I'd be learning on the job with.
Hopefully we won't be in that position. Ms. Pope?
Give an example of a time when you had to collaborate with your neighbors or others with varying viewpoints to build consensus. How did you approach the situation and what was the outcome?
So to clarify, the question was, how did I yeah, that'd be great.
Like again,
Thanks.
I'm giving these long. So give an example of a time when you had to collaborate with your neighbors or others with varying viewpoints and to build consensus. That was the first part. How did you approach the situation and what was the outcome?
really feel like I should have more of an answer because I've lived in GHI for 27 years, and it's all about living with your neighbors. But I don't feel like I've had a situation where we've had a particular thing that we wanted to get done. Like, I know sometimes people in GHI will want to have like a non-smoking row or something like that. I haven't had a situation where there's been a group that's tried to accomplish a particular thing in my neighborhood, and we've had to try to make it happen, or that it didn't happen at all. I actually don't have a situation like that to describe.
Not a bad thing.
Huh?
That's not a bad thing.
Ask a follow-up.
Oh, yes, please.
But you are the moderator of Greenbelters, though, and there are often situations on that Facebook page where there are people with varying viewpoints interacting, and it's part of your job to make sure that things remain smooth. So can you talk a little bit about your process for that?
Yeah, that's an interesting position. As moderators, we try to. The group was started basically as a way of letting people talk to each other, and so we try to be pretty backed off about interfering unless people just get really nasty with each other. So if somebody's going to make a sarcastic but profoundly unhelpful comment, we'll actually let it stand, because you need to know who your neighbors are. And not all neighbors get along. Not all people see things the same way. And we're not there to make everybody agree with us as moderators. We're not there to make everybody agree with a particular viewpoint about everything. We try to make sure that an item is related to Greenbelt specifically, something that's not really general, but actually special to Greenbelt. We try to make sure that people are civil. We try to make sure to remove language that it can be construed as racist or otherwise really damaging or harassing. But we also try and let people be who they are as long as they're reasonably civil with each other. Sometimes we don't agree on what's civil among the three of us, and so sometimes a comment will be allowed to stand that one of us wishes would be removed, but the other two people feel like, no, it's it's okay. So we do have to compromise with each other as moderators, and so sometimes there will be things said in the group that are, well, like I said, unhelpful, but we're not there to make everybody be like who we are as moderators. We're there to allow discussion to happen in the group. Does that answer that question? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Councilperson McKinney.
How would you approach diversity, equity, and inclusion in your leadership style and decision making?
I think that diversity, equity, inclusion are really important. And they are things that I am continuing to learn about as a middle-aged white woman. And again, I think it's important to listen. And I think it's important to look for ways of reaching out to audiences that have been, community members that have been underserved or who feel underheard. I think it's important to make extra efforts where efforts previously have been lacking. And that doesn't mean do everything equally. It means making an extra effort where an effort has not been made before. And that it's going to be not across the board. It is going to be a special thing. Does that help?
Okay, well that's the end of our questions.
Okay.
So feel free, to make a closing statement or just share whatever you want to share.
I think I've really valued the experience of being an applicant for this position. I've valued attending meetings in person, seeing more about how you all work, seeing how members of the community interact with you in your role as council members, learning more about some of the problems that are facing our city, particularly with learning that a whole part of our city felt not heard, was really eye-opening to me. And whether I get selected for this position or not, I would want to be involved in trying to help Central Greenbelt build bridges to the other parts of Greenbelt so that everybody feels like we are indeed one city and doesn't feel like they don't matter or like they're somehow less than in the city. So I just really valued this experience for that reason, that it's shown me a thing about our city that I really wasn't aware about before. And I feel committed to trying to help improve that, regardless of the outcome for me personally tonight or tomorrow night.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much for sitting with us tonight, and thank you for going through the application process and getting to this point. So we've interviewed everybody. You're the last one. So we're going to talk just a little bit about what we're going to do tomorrow, and that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed all the stuff that we had in the library.
Too nervous to eat anything, but well hydrated.
Good to hydrate, though.
Thank you very much for this time tonight.
Thank you.
Sure, if they're still there. I don't know. Did others stay? Did everyone leave? I thought they had left, actually. No? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I think they're all doing a run on co-op now.
It's too late. It's closed. It's supposed to be there.
So she was gone anyway.
I'm told you, 3 o'clock, that's it, 3:30, that's it.
I mean, I guess people probably run in there.
Because I go after work, so I hit I end there up there usually about 3:30.
Yeah.
And Tuesdays, it's gone. Wednesdays, yes, because there's no 25% off.
Okay, is that everybody? Well, this has been a very interesting evening, hearing from the 5 applicants to fill the vacancy on City Council. A lot of great perspectives on the city, just in terms of folks talking about themselves and why they wanted to run, and responding to the set of questions that we put together. I have to tell you, I think the set of questions actually came out pretty good. So it is what it is. Crowdsourcing. So we are going to meet tomorrow, and it's going to be a special meeting. We're going to open with a special meeting. We talked a little bit about this before, and this council, we have to work together for the good of our residents throughout the city. So I, for one, and I think collectively the consensus is we're not going to be in a position where we'll be discussing candidates, their qualifications, public. If we have to do that, and I think we do have to put our heads together, we are going to do that in executive session. So, given that the executive session would take place from the special meeting, and at some point, and I really don't have a sense as to where we're going to come out, but if we're able to agree quickly, we would come back out in an open session, and we would take a vote on what we want to do, and to actually formally make the appointment. So that could happen. We're going to start at 7 o'clock. Conceivably, that could happen at 8 o'clock. It could happen at 9 o'clock. It could happen at 12 o'clock. But honestly, I think if we come to a point where we are not reaching a consensus, because it's going to take four of us to actually make this decision, we might have to recess and adjourn again on Thursday or Friday or even Saturday before we can come back in an open session. And in the open session, we have to have a quorum. So that's sort of an outline of what we'll do. Now, I know, Mayor Pro Tem, you had some thoughts about what we would do before going into an executive session, but I just want to, again, stress that I am not going to talk about people's qualifications or balancing one candidate against another in a public forum. It's just inappropriate. There's some liability that could be caused, but just basically, we all have to work together. It's not the time and place.
Well, I think one of the reasons that we developed the set of criteria and spent time discussing those criteria and did the listening sessions, as well as that was doing a set of criteria and a rubric, was also the recommendation of our DEI officer and our consulting company. I think part of the idea is that we were discussing what were the qualifications of a candidate, broadly speaking, and then we can use those rubrics as individuals, because it is a vote of us as individuals. That's the way the charter states it. So we came to an agreement on things that we were looking for. And then we can, what we've heard tonight, what the candidates presented to us, as well as we have gotten testimonies from people who've emailed us, or people, I'm sure people. So I guess my thinking is that the point of doing that process before we did the interviews was to think about the qualities that we should be looking for and be able to then, fill out that rubric for ourselves. And I think that before we go into a closed session, we need to do at least a vote. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean open voting. We're like raising our hands. But ballots, I think traditionally, from what I read of the news review, I think it often was done as a ballot. So you write down and then hand it to the city manager, and the city manager counts it. I think we could also do that same thing in an electronic way. So we're not necessarily discussing the candidates openly, but we each have our opinions, and we've used our judgment. I have looked into what it would do to do a ranked choice system for this. I'm not sure how well that works with only 6 voters. I think the way ranked choice usually is done is for larger groups of people, and so it makes more sense in that case to if you have thousands of people voting and they rank them, then the person at the bottom. But there's only 6 of us. I think the truth is that sometimes a compromise candidate could end up coming out of this, that somebody that was not somebody anybody picked as their first choice, but somebody thought, oh well, but okay, that they're a reasonable second choice, or things like that. So we could try something like a ranked choice. It wouldn't be complicated to do. I just am not sure how well it would work with just 6 voters. That's something that I tried to find some information about and didn't find a lot that talked about it in this sort of small voting context. But it would be my preference that we all think about what we've heard, go back to the criteria that we discussed collectively, and then do at least a vote, perhaps a few votes, and if before we go into closed session. And if it looks like we're not getting anywhere, because there was at least one instance in the 50s where it went 17 ballots, I think that may not be super productive if we just sit here for that. But I think at least one ballot, possibly several, to see if we have some agreement before going into a closed session, because I worry about the perception of not that it's a smoke-filled room because there's no smoking in the municipal building, but the idea of making a decision in the smoke-filled room, I don't like the lack of transparency of that personally. So that would be my choice, not to go into a closed session unless we have to, unless we can't come to agreement with a series of votes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Of course, that's something we can actually, when we're in the special meeting, we can actually vote on that tomorrow. But I don't know how other council members feel about that. But I did want to just reinforce that council, we've received correspondence, we've received email, and for any residents that have watched or want to watch, because you can stream, you can go back and look at this broadcast on if it's on YouTube. Please send us your thoughts. You can send them to council@greenbeltmd.gov. Between now and tomorrow, we'll definitely continue to take the thoughts of folks into consideration. I know a whole bunch of people have walked up to me and told me different things over the past month and a half. So we've heard lots of feedback. Some other thoughts?
Oh, I think we should go into closed session and see where we stand. That has nothing to do with not being transparent. There's nothing secretive about this process. I think we all have been here. We all have interviewed the interested candidates, or not candidates, sorry, the interested parties. Corrected myself. And I just think we need to come together and maybe just talk shortly about what, the notes that we made, where are we? Before we sit here and start to rehash it and go through a lengthy process and, agree and disagree. And so I just would be interested in where everybody is, at this time, what everybody's thinking is. That would be interesting for me. How everybody votes is, in the end, you vote, but we vote by paper ballot or however we're going to do it. And then we'll see. And that will be in the open. Very transparent.
Yeah, and I think with the balloting, it can be paper, or you can have the clerk, the city clerk.
Electronic, I think too, right? Because I know when I do workshops and stuff, we have in the end, you can vote for different topics and stuff, and then it goes directly to.
I think there's some SharePoint tools and some
Yeah.
Microsoft tools that we could
Yeah,
use
because
to
we
do
do it all the
ballots.
time. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Some members, other thoughts?
I would say I agree with you, Mayor, that I wouldn't want to discuss publicly the candidates' individual qualifications and our opinions on those. I think that's not fair to them, and it's sort of harsh. It'd be harsh and sort of undue. I think the idea of maybe doing one vote before we go in, or two before we discuss, that's okay. Because maybe we're all on the same page and we don't even know it. That I wouldn't have a problem with doing that, but I do think that I agree. I don't want to hash things out in public. I think that's best for special session.
Especially you're talking about
Closed
you're
session,
talking
sorry.
about people. You're talking about personalities. You're talking about I mean that for me is just I don't want to do that. I really don't. I mean I just feel like that's not right. And we could possibly get, I don't know what the rules and regulations are on that, but, we cannot speak about any of our employees publicly if there's something. We have to go in closed sessions because you speak about people. So I don't know if that would be the same rules apply or not, because I've never been in that situation before. So.
Member McKinney?
I think it's just important. This is an application process, and we're reviewing the applicants based on not only the responses that they have given, comments that we've gotten from the community, feedback that we've gotten from community, but we also spent time trying to go through and look at and put together some type of evaluation type of strategy. And so I would encourage us that in coming back tomorrow, so not just think about it where we feel, it is looking at that criteria and those qualifications that we wanted to look at, that we set up in that rubric, is important. Because I think that's how you measure people fairly, and you're not getting into all of the personalities and things like that. So, I also wanted to say and just commend all of the applicants. Everyone did a phenomenal job in really presenting their commitment and their dedication to the community and to this process. I know from being one of the newer members, it is not easy. So the fact that you, took the risk, put yourself out there, is just commendable. So I want to just personally thank you all for just being transparent and just being open to sharing that with us. So thank you.
Well said, well said. And I agree, our conversations, the input that we took from the listening sessions and developing that rubric, it's a tool, we should all use it. My experience has shown me, though, in developing those kinds of tools and working with groups and evaluating proposals and things, you have a tool, but everybody tends to look at them. You can't get away from your own personal opinions of prioritizing which ones are most important to you as an individual. So, it kind of... Hey, Rodney, what do you think?
I don't really see much need for a closed session myself, but I like the idea of just doing the ballots. We can write them down or however way you want to do it. But I don't really see the need for going into closed session. But I think if you're going to do that, it would make more sense to me to do it before we did any ballots, just to get an idea of how other council members felt about the various candidates. Maybe that has some legitimacy, but I've pretty much narrowed down in my mind how I'm going to vote. So I don't really need a closed session, to tell you the truth.
Okay, and I have my impressions, but I value everybody's opinion on council, so I very much want to hear what everybody else. So basically, I think we can hammer this out. I think we all need to do our homework and go back and look at our notes if we took notes. But I think we can kind of work 7. I think we can take a couple of questions real quick. We have comments. Is anybody online?
There are some folks online. I don't see any hands raised or any the Q&A comments were all related to they could hear us when we were in the break and wondering about that.
Okay. Okay. Well, we got a couple of comments. Please go ahead. Now you got to come up. Why don't you come up and you go to the...
You don't want the comfortable chair?
Anyway, Charlene Backstrom, 22 Ridge Road. You guys are talking about qualifications. My question is, when you got this position as a council member, were there things, criteria that they were looking for in your resume, maybe education, something like that, for you to sit on the seat of a council person?
I would say yes. I think a lot of people people have different reasons for voting. Some people make the choice they don't vote, but a lot of people that do vote, take it very seriously. So I think in our literature that we distributed, I think that if we had a website or other ways of communicating and ads in the news review, I think that candidates tend to put information about experience that they feel would be relevant, professional background or personal background, things like that, I think are influential. So yes.
The only thing that I would
And-
ask of the council that is voting tomorrow, that you look at the qualifications of each candidate and look at that person and say, he has this, he has that, he has this, he's better qualified for the city of Greenbelt and the residents here who want this position filled. That's all I'm asking, that it seems like everybody has different qualifications, different things. Just look at what you would say to yourself, this is why I'm on council, because I have education, I have financial background, I have excellent customer service, I know how to handle people, I know how to talk to people. Look at the candidates that have been suggested and sat here and talked, and pick the right candidate for the right position. Because there's no special election. There's 6 people up here that's going to make a decision for Greenbelt for the next 2 years. I'm just asking that you guys really collectively together collaborate. Don't have hard discussions that cause problems, but just make it be the best candidate for the seat that is available.
Well, thank you. Ms. Pope,
Yeah,
you
I
say
think
something?
when we go through the election process every 2 years, I mean, it's quite an extensive process, as everybody knows, right? The official start is always Labor Day festival, but it begins earlier, of course, right? But you put yourself out there, right? And you put your ads, and you use your mailers and your door pieces, and you have questions from the news review, and you go to events, and you need to speak to people constantly. It's a constant, right? It's not easy. It's hard, right? Especially if you work. I have sometimes between 2 and 3 jobs that I'm working. So no, I cannot go to every function in the center because I just can't, right? But you do put yourself out there, and you do the best you can, and you hope you do the best you can, right? And even reach people that you maybe have not reached before, yeah. And hope maybe sometimes they come up to you too, and maybe engage you in some way and say, hey, I really haven't talked to you much, and how are. So that's the process. It's a long process. If I would have a choice right now, I don't want to be sitting here and making this choice, or making a choice from 6 people. That's really not what I want to do. It's really the people's choice when election time comes. But of course, the unfortunate situation with Rick's passing has put us here. So I can tell you that we're all, I don't want to speak for all, but I really truly believe that each one of us sitting here is trying to make the best possible decision with the little bit that we know about each person, right? I mean, of course, maybe some of you have more personal interactions, but some of us we don't. But so it's difficult. It's hard. I really don't want to make this choice. And it's not for me to make. It's really for the people to make. It's an elected position. But of course, we cannot have a special election because it's not in our charter, right? And after the last, when we had one of our previous council members step down shortly before the election, that was the first situation that we had, like, oh my God, we need to fill a seat. What do we do? And really nothing was really written in stone or written in our documents. So that's when we decided, as soon as the election is over, we're going to get this done, and we're going to, make a plan, like in case, because something can happen. I mean, but unfortunately now we're here. So I really also want to thank everyone to put yourself out there. It's hard. And I think you all got a little snippet of like how this feels when your heart races and you sit there and you have a whole bunch of people looking at you and you're like, oh my God, right? And I do very badly with some of these things because it still makes me nervous. But I thank you, and I can assure you that we're really trying to do the best we can. My preference is to vote for a process, right? And everybody's clear on what my idea was on the process. But of course, this is not what we're having right now. But I will do the best, and I'll try to make the best decision, and we'll go from there. We need to fill the seat. We have no choice. We need a 7th member.
Yep. Ronnie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just want to make a couple comments, to answer the question there. But, 34 years ago, everybody knows I've been around for a while. 34 years ago, not 32. I've been on the council 32, but there was a time when I lost the first election, so that was 34 years ago. And it seems like there are a lot more people in the room when we had a candidates night. I can remember going to I think my first candidates night was at the community church down in the basement. I don't know how many people have been in that facility, but it's a fairly good sized basement, and it was packed with people. And I had never spoken in front of anybody, but I had been active for a few years in the Committee to Save the Greenbelt and trying to save Parcel One and all that. So I had been out in the community a lot, and I went to all the council meetings and all that kind of stuff. But to tell you the truth, I think the candidates tonight had some way harder and more interesting questions than I've seen, over the years at different candidates' nights. I think this was a good set of questions to ask the candidates. And I think they all did a pretty good job of answering them. So it makes it easier, to make the decision. But the one thing I've learned through this process is that we should have had a special election. And in the future, we need to have a special election because that's the fairest thing. And that gets the people involved. And we must have the people involved to have a good community and a good government in the community. It has to be by the people. It can't be these 6 people up here deciding who they're going to put on as a council member. That's not a good thing for the city. So when this is all over and done, if there's any changes to be made, that's the change that I want to be made, is we need to make it a citizen's responsibility. I think, there is some beauty in the charter right now because really it gives us leeway to do this any way we want. We could have had a special election. We could have appointed someone in one day. We could have just went into a special meeting and said, hey, we wanted this person. So there's some beauty in that, but what's not beautiful about it is that it can allow people, council members, to try to pack the council with someone, with their views. And so that's not a good thing. And you can avoid that by having the community involved and the voters doing the voting. That's the way it should be, I think, and that way it gives everybody a much better chance. So live and learn, and let's get through this process and move on.
Yeah, let's get through this process and move on. I didn't mean to open up the floor to speeches. I was just trying to get a couple of comments in from residents. We have one more comment, and I'd like to really call it a night because we have to convene tomorrow, and the session may go for a long time. We do have a retreat. We have a meeting on Thursday, the Four Cities meeting. We really need to be there. I'm hoping that all of council will be there. Let's see, we do have a comment. Please, sir.
Bill Orleans, resident. I'd like to suggest that we could all tonight stipulate that any of the 5 applicants have the necessary qualifications to be appointed to council, that I might not vote for any of them, or would prefer not to vote for any of them. I might vote for them, preferring not to, is irrelevant. The fact that council might prefer one or another of them is irrelevant. I think we can stipulate that each of the 5 is qualified to be appointed to council. Therefore, if that's the case, there's no need for council to discuss the qualifications. You would be discussing not the qualifications, but your preferences. And I'm opposed to council meeting in closed session to discuss your preferences as to who among the 5 to appoint. There's no need for a closed session. We can reconvene tomorrow night at the appropriate time. Council can deliberate in public its preferences, and council should vote tomorrow night on whom to appoint to fill the vacancy. One last thing. We've had 3 special elections, 3 regular meetings, I believe, since the death of Rick Gordon. at any one of those regular meetings, any one of members of council, older or newer, could have, as they were urged to do, introduce a resolution. This would be the second time in 3 years. Introduce a resolution to amend the charter to, one, allow for special elections to fill any vacancy, and then looking to the budget of the city and also the reality of the city, also a vote to amend the charter, creating 7 council districts. I might think it should still be 5, but that's just me. But creating council districts and creating, amending the charter to create the districts and amending the charter to allow for special elections to fill a vacancy.
Thank you very much. So at this point, if there are no other comments, Mr. Hartman, please.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. I think before you leave, it would be very helpful for us, for the city, not to mention the Greenbelt News Review, which is holding a space for its publication on Thursday, exactly what you're going to be doing tomorrow night. Heard lots of different ideas, but I haven't heard a decision made, and I think that is appropriate for the 6 of you to make a decision tonight, like right now before you leave, exactly what you're going to be doing so people know about it and that we can all know what to expect. In other words, to manage the expectations of the people of Greenbelt. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This is a special meeting. Someone could make a motion. If there was a second, we could debate. We could decide exactly what we were going to do. I would prefer to ruminate, to think about it a little bit. I think that we can work it out pretty quickly tomorrow. So it's been a long night. So I certainly take your suggestions and thoughts quite seriously. I'm not hearing any motions. Someone could make a motion to adjourn, and we
Motion
could,
to adjourn.
and if there was a second,
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.